Have you ever stopped to think that we could borrow superpowers from nature? I'm not talking about flying or super strength, but something way more fundamental, the secret to survival itself. Okay, let's get right into this, because what if the key to protecting our own DNA was hiding inside one of the toughest little animals on the entire planet?
Let's start with a number that just sounds made up: 5,000 grays. Now, a gray is just a way to measure a dose of ionizing radiation, and 5,000? Well, that is a staggering amount for any living thing to survive. To give you some perspective on just how wild that is,
the lethal dose for you and me is somewhere around 5 to 10 grays. So this tiny animal can take thousands of times more radiation than would be fatal for us. It's a level of resilience that's almost hard to wrap your head around. So who is this incredible creature? Say hello to the tardigrade, or as it's more affectionately known, the water bear. These are microscopic animals, smaller than a millimeter, and you can find them pretty much everywhere, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains. And their reputation as nature's ultimate survivor, it is definitely well earned. But that brings us to the real mystery, right? It's one thing to say they're tough, but how? What's the biological secret? What's going on under the hood that gives them this almost mythical ability to survive? Well, scientists were dying to find out. And to really appreciate the answer, you've got to understand the full scope of what these little guys can do. Because it's not just about radiation, not even close. I mean, scientists have literally sent them into the vacuum of space, and they come back just fine. They can handle temperatures that are near absolute zero and way, way above boiling. They can survive being crushed by pressures 1,200 times what we feel at sea level. And maybe the craziest part, they can go into a state of total dehydration, basically drying out completely, and just wait, sometimes for years. They are, in every sense of the word, extremophiles. So, with a survivor this legendary, where do you even begin to search for its secrets? Well, the answer, as it so often does, was buried deep inside its DNA. So, back in 2016, a research team decided to sequence the entire genome of one of the most radiation-proof tardigrade species out there, Rhamazottius vir ornatus. And hidden in that complex genetic code, they stumbled upon something totally new, something that no one had ever seen before. They found a brand new protein, and they gave it the perfect name, D-sup, which is short for damage suppressor. Now, this wasn't some protein we already knew about. It was completely unique to the tardigrade. And right away, the scientists had a powerful hunch that this protein was the secret weapon they'd been looking for. Okay, so this led to the next massive question. If D-sup really is the tardigrade's secret weapon, how does it actually work? How can a single protein provide such an incredible defense? What makes D-sup so special is its shape, or really, its lack of a specific shape. You see, most proteins are folded up into these very rigid, specific structures, kind of like a key made for one lock. But D-sup is what scientists call an intrinsically disordered protein. It's more like a flexible, charged cloud. It has these long, flowing tails that can move all around, and it's that incredible flexibility that gives it its power. The way it works is both simple and absolutely brilliant. First, D-sup makes its way to the cell's nucleus, right where all the important DNA is kept. Then it physically latches onto the chromatin. That's the tightly bundled up form of DNA. And finally, it basically forms this protective cloud around the DNA, a physical barrier that just blocks damaging things, like the molecules that radiation creates, from ever getting close. In this detail, this changes everything. The key takeaway is this: D-sup is a shield, not a mechanic. See, most living things, including us, have these really complex systems to repair DNA after it's already been broken. D-sup's strategy is way different. It's about preventing the damage from ever happening in the first place. It's proactive, not reactive. And that is a completely different and way more efficient way of thinking about survival. And this is where things get really interesting. This is where the story jumps from being about fascinating biology to potentially world-changing technology. Because finding a biological shield is one thing, but it immediately sparked an absolutely revolutionary idea. Could we actually take this superpower from a tiny water bear and transfer it to human cells? Could we borrow nature's ultimate survival tool for ourselves? To find out, researchers set up a truly landmark experiment. They took human kidney cells grown in a lab, they're called HEK293 cells, and they genetically engineered them to start producing the tardigrade's D-soup protein. Basically, they gave human cells the instruction manual to build their very own DNA shields. And then, they blasted them with X-rays. The results were just astounding. The human cells that were making the tardigrade protein had about 40 to 50% less DNA damage from the X-rays. It worked. The shield actually worked. A superpower had been successfully transferred from one of Earth's toughest animals directly into human cells. This breakthrough wasn't just some neat trick in a lab. It threw the doors wide open to a whole new world of applications that could fundamentally change everything from medicine to space exploration. And what's really amazing is that DSEP doesn't even work alone in the tardigrade. As you can see here, it's just one part of this incredibly complex, multi-layered defense system that nature has spent millions of years perfecting. It's part of a whole network of protective factors. The point is, nature has already built these incredible survival kits. And by isolating just one piece of that puzzle, DSEP, we've managed to borrow a little bit of that genius.
And this immediately points to two huge game-changing possibilities. First, making cancer therapy safer. Radiation is a crucial tool for fighting cancer, but it can also damage healthy cells, causing terrible side effects. Imagine if we could shield those healthy cells. And second, deep space exploration. A long trip, say to Mars, would bombard astronauts with cosmic radiation. DSEP could literally be the shield that helps us travel to other worlds.
The potential impact here is just enormous. In the United States alone, something like 60% of all cancer patients get radiation therapy. We're talking about millions of people who could be helped by this. If we could give their healthy cells a temporary DSEP shield, and we know it can cut DNA damage by 40 to 50%, that could completely transform cancer treatment as we know it.
And the vision just keeps getting bigger. Scientists are already looking into ways to deliver DSEP using mRNA technology. Yep, similar to some of the modern vaccines, to protect only specific parts of the body. But it could also be used to reduce damage from chemotherapy, help us store stem cells for longer, or even create medicines that don't need to be refrigerated.
When you boil it all down, the story of DSEP is this incredible proof of concept. It shows us that these amazing survival tricks that extremophiles have evolved, they aren't just biological quirks. They are essentially transferable technologies, blueprints that we can learn from and maybe even use to make our own species stronger and more resilient. Which leaves us with one final, pretty mind-blowing thought. We just figured out how to borrow a molecular shield from a creature smaller than a grain of sand to protect our own DNA. It just makes you wonder, what other incredible secrets, what other superpowers are hidden out there in the unseen corners of our world just waiting for us to find them?
Don't go anywhere, hit subscribe and we continue.
Deep in the ocean, where the pressure is crushing and the sun is just a memory, nature has built something that, well, it shouldn't exist. It's a structure made from one of the most fragile materials we know, glass, but it possesses a strength that's almost unbelievable. Let's dig into how nature pulled off this incredible feat. What you're looking at is the Venus's flower basket. It's a deep-sea sponge that can live for thousands of years, just anchored to the seafloor. And its entire beautiful, intricate skeleton, it's made of biosilica, which is basically, for all intents and purposes, glass. Now, it looks like it would shatter if you just looked at it wrong, but in reality, it's one of the toughest, most resilient structures in the entire natural world. So that brings us to the big question, right? How is that even possible? How can this simple little organism, using nothing but the stuff floating around in cold seawater, build a glass house that is now inspiring the next generation of our bridges, our buildings, and even our spacecraft? The answer, it turns out, is a masterclass in engineering on multiple levels. To really uncover the sponge's secret, we've got to start with the big picture, its large-scale architecture. You see, it's not just about what it's made of, it's about the design. And you know, nature had about a 500 million year head start on R&D. For centuries, we humans have used a pretty standard lattice design. You know, a simple square grid, maybe throw in a single diagonal brace for support. The sponge's design looks kind of similar at first, but there is one crucial difference. It uses two parallel diagonal struts, and that creates a totally unique and much, much stronger pattern. This double diagonal approach creates this beautiful checkerboard of open and reinforced cells.
It might seem like a small tweak, but this intelligent arrangement of material is a complete game changer for structural integrity. See, it's not about adding more material, it's about putting it exactly where it needs to be.
And the results? Well, they're pretty impressive. According to research from Harvard University, this bio-inspired lattice gives you over 20% greater resistance to buckling compared to the traditional designs we use, all without using a single ounce of extra material. It is simply a stronger, more efficient blueprint.
But the genius of the design doesn't even stop there. The sponge's exterior frame has these amazing spiral ridges, and researchers discovered these aren't just for looks. They act just like the helical strakes you see on industrial smokestacks, breaking up the flow of water to reduce drag and vibrations from those deep-sea currents, keeping the sponge perfectly stable. It's just brilliant.
Okay, so the overall structure is a work of art. But what about the glass itself? I mean, glass is brittle. One tiny crack and the whole thing should just shatter, right? Well, that is where we find the second, microscopic secret to the sponge's incredible strength. If we look at a single one of those glass fibers, they're called spicules, under a microscope, we find something truly remarkable. It is not a solid rod of glass. It's layered, almost like the rings of a tree. And this is the key to turning a fragile material into a tough one. You see, this isn't pure glass. It's what material scientists would call a laminated composite. Each spicula is made of dozens of incredibly thin concentric layers of silica, and those layers are glued together by an even thinner film of organic protein. Think of it like microscopic glass-based plywood. This layered design pulls off a really neat trick. It stops cracks dead in their tracks. So, when a fracture starts in one of the outer glass layers, it can't just rip through the whole structure. Instead, the moment it hits one of those flexible organic layers, the crack's energy just dissipates. It gets absorbed, stopping it cold. It's an unbelievably elegant way to prevent catastrophic failure. And the effect is staggering. When scientists 3D printed rods that mimicked the sponge's design, they were able to absorb at least 3 to 4 times more energy before failing, compared with solid rod of the exact same material. It fundamentally transforms a brittle structure into a flexible and durable one. So as if being a masterclass in structural engineering wasn't enough, the sponge's glass spicules have another completely unexpected function that has absolutely captivated scientists. This is where things get really wild. Think about this. To make the fiber optic cables that power our internet, we have to melt down silica sand at insane temperatures, over 1600 degrees Celsius. It's a hugely energy-intensive process. The Venus's flower basket sponge, it makes its own high-quality silica fibers from seawater at the near-freezing temperatures of the deep ocean. We're talking around 4 degrees Celsius. And amazingly, these biological spicules can transmit light. They function just like commercial fiber optic cables. Researchers have shown they've got a high index core and a low index cladding. That's the exact design you need to guide light efficiently. It's just mind-boggling. And in some ways, nature's version is even better. We already know they have way better fracture toughness because of that layered design. But because they're grown at low temperatures, they don't have the residual stress that can make our man-made fibers so fragile. They even incorporate natural impurities, like sodium, which can actually improve their optical properties. So what does all this mean for us? Well, this single, humble organism, perfected over millions of years, is basically handing us a blueprint for a whole new generation of materials and structures. Engineers and architects are already studying these principles. The sponge's lattice design could lead to lighter, yet stronger bridges and skyscrapers. Its crack-stopping layered material could inspire shock-resistant gear and even more resilient spacecraft. And its low-temperature approach to making fiber optics, that could revolutionize telecommunications as we know it. And don't just take my word for it. The researchers leading this work confirm the incredible potential here. The main lesson is that by studying nature's time-tested designs, we can learn how to build our own structures with a kind of geometric perfection and efficiency we've only dreamed of. It's a perfect example of biomimicry, looking to nature to solve our most complex challenges. The Venus's flower basket just goes to show us that even in the deepest, darkest corners of our own planet, there are brilliant solutions just waiting to be understood. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other revolutionary technologies are out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to look at the natural world with new eyes?
Don't go anywhere. Hit subscribe and we continue.
You know, from your first cup of coffee in the morning to the most complex industrial systems, our entire world runs on filters, and pretty much all of them share the same incredibly frustrating flaw. They clog. It's this problem of brute force that we've kind of just accepted as a necessary evil. But here's what most people don't realize. Nature solved this exact problem millions of years ago.
Okay, let's just jump right into the deep end here, because this question, it's everything. Think about it. We pour billions of dollars into research and development, we have supercomputers and space-age materials, and yet a simple paper cone gets defeated by coffee grounds. Meanwhile, the biggest fish in the ocean filters water non-stop for its entire life, and it never ever clogs, not once. How is that even possible?
Well, the answer isn't in some high-tech lab. It's out there, in the deep ocean, with some of the most massive, majestic animals on the planet. And these creatures, they aren't just biological wonders. They're living, breathing filtration engines, operating with an elegance and an efficiency that honestly makes our best technology look kind of primitive.
And the scale we're talking about it's just staggering. I mean, for baleen whales and whale sharks, their entire survival depends on a constant, uninterrupted flow of water to get the tiny food they need. For them, a clog isn't an inconvenience, it's a fatal design flaw. So their filters have to be perfect, day in and day out for their entire lives.
Let's put a number to this, because it's wild. A single large whale shark can process over 600 cubic meters of water every single hour. To help you picture that, imagine filtering an entire Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 4 hours and doing it with almost no energy. So, what is the secret? What's the trick behind this incredible feat of natural engineering?
Well, it all comes down to this incredibly clever, yet beautifully simple, principle of fluid dynamics. It's a fundamental shift in thinking that separates our way from nature's way, and it's called cross-flow filtration. This slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got our method, dead-end filtration. We basically try to force everything through a screen. It's confrontational, it's messy, particles get trapped, flow stops, and we have to crank up the pressure just to make it work. But on the right, that's nature's way, cross-flow. Here, the water moves parallel to the filter, not directly into it. It's all about finesse, not force.
And this is where the real genius is. As water glides along these filter pads, the physics of that flow creates this mesmerizing dance of tiny, swirling vortices. These little whirlpools act like a protective shield, actively lifting the particles away from the filter, preventing them from ever even touching the surface. So the clean water escapes through the pores, and this concentrated stream of food gets swept right where it needs to go. It is, quite literally, a self-cleaning engine.
Now, for decades, the exact mechanics here were a total mystery. But thanks to the incredible, meticulous work of research teams at institutions across the United States, we're talking the College of William and Mary, the University of South Florida, the Georgia Aquarium, and of course MIT, we finally get the beautiful physics that make this whole thing possible.
And the second that scientists truly understood how this worked, you can just imagine the light bulbs going off in engineering labs everywhere. This wasn't just some fascinating piece of biology anymore. No, this was a blueprint. It was a perfect solution, field-tested for millions of years, just sitting there waiting for us.
You know, this quote from Dr. Dove at the Georgia Aquarium, it just says it all. We so often see nature as this thing to be conquered or overcome. But right here is this incredibly elegant, remarkable solution that was just waiting to be understood. It's a powerful reminder that the best R&D department on Earth has been running for eons. I mean, it's a classic case of why reinvent the wheel when nature has already perfected the design, right? So what did our smartest engineers do? They decided to learn from the master. And this shift, this idea of learning from biology instead of inventing from scratch, is at the very heart of a field we call biomimicry. And look, this is not theoretical stuff. This is happening right now. In Australia, engineers created something called the baleen industrial filter, directly modeled on whale feeding to treat wastewater with unbelievable efficiency and super low energy. And over at MIT, by studying the same kind of cross-flow system in manta rays, researchers are building new microfilters that can separate tiny particles without ever clogging. Nature's blueprints are literally building our future. So what does this all actually mean for us? You know, where does this insight take us next? The crucial point to get here is this. The uncloggable filter is just the beginning. This represents a huge fundamental shift in how we approach engineering. It's about humility. It's about recognizing that the natural world around us isn't just a pile of resources to be used, but a library of brilliant, time-tested ideas we can learn from.
The potential impacts are just thrilling to think about.
Imagine municipal water treatment plants that are vastly more efficient, slashing energy costs for our cities. Think about brand new technologies that could finally start to tackle the nightmare of microplastics in our oceans. It could even lead to safer, purer ways of making beer and other beverages, and all of this inspired by the elegant way a fish eats its lunch. Which really just leaves us with this one final, profound question. If the secret to a perfectly efficient, self-cleaning filter was hiding in the mouth of a whale shark this whole time, what other revolutionary answers are out there, disguised as a leaf, or a feather, or a shell? What huge problems could we solve tomorrow if we just took the time to look a little closer at the genius of life today?
Thanks for watching. Support BioVellum by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Let's explore the secrets of nature together.